Exodus chapter 21. These are the ordinances that you are to set before them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years, but in the 7th year he shall go free without paying anything. If he arrived alone, he is to leave alone. If he arrived with a wife, she is to leave with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. But if the servant declares, I love my master and my wife and children, I do not want to go free, then his master is to bring him before the judges, and he shall take him to the door or doorpost and pierce his ear with an awl. Then he shall serve his master for life. And if a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free as the men servants do. If she is displeasing in the eyes of her master, who had designated her for himself, he must allow her to be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners, since he has broken faith with her. And if he chooses her for his son, he must deal with her as with a daughter. If he takes another wife, he must not reduce the food, clothing, or marital rights of his first wife. If, however, he does not provide her with these 3 things, she is free to go without monetary payment. Whoever strikes and kills a man must surely be put to death. If, however, he did not lie in wait, but God allowed it to happen, then I will appoint for you a place where he may flee. But if a man schemes and acts willfully against his neighbor to kill him, you must take him away from my altar to be put to death. Whoever strikes his father or mother must surely be put to death. Whoever kidnaps another man must be put to death, whether he sells him or the man is found in his possession. Anyone who curses his father or mother must surely be put to death. If men are quarreling and one strikes the other with a stone or a fist, and he does not die but is confined to bed, then the one who struck him shall go unpunished as long as the other can get up and walk around outside with his staff. Nevertheless, he must compensate the man for his lost work and see that he is completely healed. If a man strikes his manservant or maidservant with a rod, and the servant dies by his hand, he shall surely be punished. However, if the servant gets up after a day or 2, the owner shall not be punished, since the servant is his property. If men who are fighting strike a pregnant woman and her child is born prematurely, but there is no further injury, he shall surely be fined as the woman's husband demands and as the court allows. But if a serious injury results, then you must require a life for a life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, and stripe for stripe. If a man strikes and blinds the eye of his manservant or maidservant, he must let the servant go free as compensation for the eye. And if he knocks out the tooth of his manservant or maidservant, he must let the servant go free as compensation for the tooth. If an ox gores a man or woman to death, the ox must surely be stoned, and its meat must not be eaten. But the owner of the ox shall not be held responsible. But if the ox has a habit of goring, and its owner has been warned yet does not restrain it, and it kills a man or woman, then the ox must be stoned, and its owner must also be put to death. If payment is demanded of him instead, he may redeem his life by paying the full amount demanded of him. If the ox gores a son or a daughter, it shall be done to him according to the same rule. If the ox gores a manservant or maidservant, the owner must pay 30 shekels of silver to the master of that servant, and the ox must be stoned. If a man opens or digs a pit and fails to cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit shall make restitution. He must pay its owner, and the dead animal will be his. If a man's ox injures his neighbor's ox and it dies, they must sell the live one and divide the proceeds. They also must divide the dead animal. But if it was known that the ox had a habit of goring, yet its owner failed to restrain it, he shall pay full compensation, ox for ox, and the dead animal will be his. Psalms. Psalm 74. A Maskil of Asaph. Why have you rejected us forever, O God? Why does your anger smolder against the sheep of your pasture? Remember your congregation, which you purchased long ago and redeemed as the tribe of your inheritance, Mount Zion, where you dwell. Turn your steps to the everlasting ruins, to everything in the sanctuary the enemy has destroyed. Your foes have roared within your meeting place. They have unfurled their banners as signs, like men wielding axes in a thicket of trees and smashing all the carvings with hatchets and picks. They have burned your sanctuary to the ground. They have defiled the dwelling place of your name. They said in their hearts, "We will crush them completely." They burned down every place where God met us in the land. There are no signs for us to see. There is no longer any prophet, and none of us knows how long this will last. How long, O God, will the enemy taunt you? Will the foe revile your name forever? Why do you withdraw your strong right hand? Stretch it out to destroy them. Yet God is my King from ancient times, working salvation on the earth. You divided the sea by your strength. You smashed the heads of the dragons of the sea. You crushed the heads of Leviathan. You fed him to the creatures of the desert. You broke open the fountain and the flood. You dried up the ever-flowing rivers. The day is yours, and also the night. You established the moon and the sun. You set all the boundaries of the earth. You made the summer and winter. Remember how the enemy has mocked you, O Lord, how a foolish people has spurned your name. Do not deliver the soul of your dove to beasts. Do not forget the lives of your afflicted forever. Consider your covenant, for haunts of violence fill the dark places of the land. Do not let the oppressed retreat in shame. May the poor and needy praise your name. Rise up, O God, defend your cause. Remember how the fool mocks you all day long. Do not disregard the clamor of your adversaries, the uproar of your enemies that ascends continually. Mark chapter 7. Then the Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus, and they saw some of his disciples eating with hands that were defiled, that is, unwashed. Now in holding to the tradition of the elders, the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat until they wash their hands ceremonially. And on returning from the market, they do not eat unless they wash. And there are many other traditions for them to observe, including the washing of cups, pitchers, kettles, and couches for dining. So the Pharisees and scribes questioned Jesus, "Why do your disciples not walk according to the tradition of the elders? Instead they eat with defiled hands." Jesus answered them, "Isaiah prophesied correctly about you, hypocrites, as it is written, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. They teach as doctrine the precepts of men.' You have disregarded the commandment of God to keep the tradition of men." He went on to say, "You neatly set aside the command of God to maintain your own tradition. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and your mother, and anyone who curses his father or mother must be put to death.' But you say that if a man says to his father or mother, 'Whatever you would have received from me is korban,' that is, a gift devoted to God, he is no longer permitted to do anything for his father or mother. Thus you nullify the word of God by the tradition you have handed down, and you do so in many such matters." Once again Jesus called the crowd to him and said, "All of you, listen to me and understand. Nothing that enters a man from the outside can defile him, but the things that come out of a man, these are what defile him." After Jesus had left the crowd and gone into the house, his disciples inquired about the parable. "Are you still so dull?" he asked. "Do you not understand? Nothing that enters a man from the outside can defile him, because it does not enter his heart, but it goes into the stomach and then is eliminated. Thus all foods are clean." He continued, "What comes out of a man, that is what defiles him. For from within the hearts of men come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, debauchery, envy, slander, arrogance, and foolishness. All these evils come from within, and these are what defile a man." Jesus left that place and went to the region of Tyre. Not wanting anyone to know he was there, he entered a house, but was unable to escape their notice. Instead, a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit soon heard about Jesus, and she came and fell at his feet. Now she was a Greek woman of Syrophoenician origin, and she kept asking Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. "First, let the children have their fill," he said, "for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs."
"Yes, Lord," she replied. "Even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Then Jesus told her, "Because of this answer you may go. The demon has left your daughter." And she went home and found her child lying on the bed, and the demon was gone. Then Jesus left the region of Tyre and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee and into the region of the Decapolis. Some people brought to him a man who was deaf and hardly able to speak, and they begged Jesus to place his hand on him. So Jesus took him aside privately, away from the crowd, and put his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spit and touched the man's tongue. And looking up to heaven, he sighed deeply and said to him, "Ephphatha," which means, "Be opened." Immediately the man's ears were opened, and his tongue was released, and he began to speak plainly. Jesus ordered them not to tell anyone, but the more he ordered them, the more widely they proclaimed it. The people were utterly astonished and said, "He has done all things well. He makes even the deaf hear and the mute speak."